Today we're going to talk about going from ratios to rates. Diet Cola was on sale last week, and for every 4 packs of that Diet Cola, it cost $10. How much would 2 packs of that Diet Cola cost? Let's first remember our data, $10 for every 4 packs of cola. Well, we can take our data of $10 for every 4 packs and turn it into a ratio, $10 for every 4 packs. And then because it's a 10 and a 4, we know that we can simplify it by dividing both sides by 2. And now we have a simplified ratio that says $5 is the cost for every 2 packs. And this is helpful because this answers our question of how much do 2 packs of this Diet Cola cost? $5. Let's take it a step further. How much does 1 pack of Diet Cola cost? Okay, again, we know that $10 is the cost of 4, and we wrote that as a ratio, and found that the simplified version would be $5 for 2 packs. So to find the cost of 1 pack, we would have to divide 2 into 2 groups, giving us 1 each. But to do that, to make it equivalent ratio, we'd also have to divide that $5 by 2 as well. And we'd find that 1 pack of Diet Cola costs $2.50, half of 5. Let's define a couple words now. The word rate, for instance. Well, we had $10 for every 4 packs of Diet Cola. That's the rate, because it was the ratio of 2 quantities. Just remember that rate means a ratio. So this is considered our rate because it's the ratio between the dollars and the quantity of Diet Cola. Another term is unit rate. The unit rate in this problem is 2.5 or 2.5 because it's the value of the ratio. Remember, unit rate is the value of the ratio. So because our ratio was 10 to 4, the value of 10 to 4, if we turn it into a fraction value, is 2.5. That's the unit rate, the value of the ratio. And the last term I want to talk about is rate unit. Rate unit is simply what are the quantities being compared in order. We have dollars to packs of Diet Cola, so that's our rate unit. Let's work with these terms a little more. Tegan went to a video game store called Gamer Realm to buy some new video games. This game store was having a sale, $65 for 4 video games. Tegan decides he's going to buy 3 games for himself and 1 game for his friend Diego. But Tegan doesn't know how much Diego owes him for that 1 game. The question is, what is the unit price of the video games? Let's remember our data. The store was having a sale, $65 for 4 video games. Well, like before, we can turn this into a ratio, $65 to every 4 video games. Because we want to know the unit price, the cost of 1 video game, we're going to divide those 4 video games by 4 so that we're left with 1. But if we do that to one side, because this is an equivalent ratio, we need to also do it to the other, $65 divided by 4. So 4 divided by 4 is 1 video game, and $65 divided into 4 groups is $16.25. So according to our ratio, $16.25 to every 1 video game, we can say that the unit price, or the cost of 1 unit, in this case video games, is $16.25. Now that we found the unit rate, what is the rate unit? In this case, the rate unit is dollars to video games. 4 football fans decide to drive from New York to Oklahoma to see a football game, and they decide to take turns driving. During each person's drive, to make things easier, they set the cruise control, enabling them to travel at a certain speed the whole time. Each time that they needed to stop for gas, they would switch drivers, and they recorded how long they drove and how far they drove, and they put it in a table. Here's that table. We have Andre, Mateo, Janaya, and Grayson. It tells how much each of them drove in miles, and how long they drove during those miles. By the way, what 2 quantities are being compared here? The quantities, or the things being compared, are miles and hours, or we can say distance and time. So the question is asked, what is the ratio of the 2 quantities for Andre's portion of this trip? Looking at the table, we see that Andre had a distance of 208 miles to a time of 4 hours. So we can say Andre's ratio is 208 miles to 4 hours. But what was Andre's rate, or associated rate? Remember, rate, or associated rate, is just the ratio of the two quantities. But we need to simplify this ratio, and to do that, I'm going to divide both sides by 4, so that I can make sure that one of my sides, or quantities, is 1 unit. And sure enough, 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 208 divided by 4 is 52. So Andre's associated rate, or his ratio of those two quantities, is 52 miles to every 1 hour. Once again, Andre's rate is 52 miles per hour. What is Andre's unit rate? 52 is Andre's unit rate. Why? Because it is the value of his ratio, and the ratio was 52 to 1, and if we turn that to a fraction or a value, it would be 52 over 1, which is equal to 52, his unit rate. What about his rate unit? What would that be? Remember, the rate unit is simply what is being compared, and in this case, it's miles per hour. Let's switch over to Matteo. What is the ratio of the two quantities for his portion? The ratio of his quantities is 456 miles to 8 hours. So what would Matteo's associated rate be? Well, to do that, we'd need to simplify his ratio. To simplify his ratio, I divided both sides by 8, and I found that it was 57 to 1, or 57 miles per hour is his associated rate. What is Matteo's unit rate? His unit rate, or the value of his rate, is 57. Once again, 57 to 1. In fraction form would be 57 over 1, which is equal to 57. That's the value of each unit, the unit rate. What is his rate unit then? Just like Andre, what is being compared is miles per hour. Let's switch over to Janai. What is the ratio of the two quantities for her portion? According to the table, it's 300 miles to 6 hours. What is her associated rate? Her associated rate is 50 miles per hour because I simply divided both sides of the ratio by 6. What's the unit rate? The value of the 50 miles per hour is 50. And rate unit? Again, miles per hour. Lastly, let's take a look at Grayson. What's the ratio of his two quantities? He traveled a distance of 265 miles over a course of 5 hours. Ratio, 265 to 5. What is the associated rate of that ratio? To find this, I simplified the ratio until I had a quantity of 1. And to do that, I divided both sides by 5 and found that there were 53 miles per hour. What is Grayson's unit rate? The value of his rate, or the value per unit, is 53. And so what is Grayson's rate unit? Miles per hour, like everyone else on this trip. So, a publishing company is looking for new employees to type out novels that will be published. They want to find people who can type at least 45 words per minute. That's that WPM. A girl, Dominique, discovered that she can type at a constant rate of 704 words in 16 minutes. The question is, does Dominique type fast enough to qualify for the job? Let's look at our data. She types 704 words every 16 minutes. To find out how fast Dominique can type per minute, we need to simplify this ratio, and I'm going to start with dividing both sides by 2 because both sides are even. Let's see what we get. Okay, so after simplifying both sides by dividing them by 2, we find an equivalent ratio of 352 words every 8 minutes. But we can go more simpler than that, can't we? I realize again that both sides are even, so I'm going to divide by 2 again. And I find 176 words every 4 minutes is what Dominique can type. But again, I can divide by 2 to simplify this even more. 176 divided by 2 is 88, and 4 divided by 2 is 2, so we know that Dominique can type 88 words every 2 minutes. But the question is, how fast can she type every minute? Let's divide both sides one more time by 2. Aha! Dominique types 44 words per minute. Remember the question? Does Dominique type fast enough to qualify for the job? Well, the job was looking for someone who could type 45 words per minute. Oh. We have to say that Dominique does not type at a fast enough rate because she only types 44 words per minute. Okay, let's review what we've learned today. One thing is that a ratio of two quantities, like our 5 miles to every 2 hours, can be written as a quantity called a rate. Remember what a unit rate is? We learned that a unit rate is the value of the ratio if it was down to 1 unit. And in the case of our 5 miles to 2 hours, we simplified that until we got 1 unit and found that the unit rate was 2.5 or 2.5. This meant that in 1 hour, remember 1 unit, the car travels 2.5 miles. Lastly, we learned about the rate unit, which is simply the quantities being compared. And in this case, it was miles to hour, which we could say as miles per hour.